from Auntiey, I was like, just how did I fit the bill? But thank you so much. I do appreciate being here. And yes, I've been in radio broadcasting for, I started at 22, so makes it about 27 years on and off. Uh, I think I was continuously in radio for about 16 years. And then after that, I was, back and forth doing broadcasting. I'm very passionate about what I do. Um, my thing has always been that we just never give up. No matter what happens, no matter how much we feel marginalized, no matter how much we feel discriminated as women, the vibe is to just keep going. And that is what has kept me in the industry for so long. Just the other day, I was talking to a friend of mine. We all were in radio for a long time, and I was just reminiscing, and we we're going back, and we're looking at some of the experiences that we had dealing with males in the industry. And we went back to a time when, we started radio at a time when nightlife was really live, like it was alive. A lot of people were going out. We didn't have so much of an exposure in terms of that. But some of the our male seniors then encouraged us to get into, playing in the night sports. And being young, I was in my 20s, very impressionable, getting excited about being on radio, the exposure of coming out of Chitungwiza, and there suddenly I'm hanging out with people from Highlands, from Borodale, and all these other spaces. So it was really exciting to have to mingle with, with that kind of a crowd. Back then, there'd be places like circus. There would be, for those that remember, Brett's nightclub. They were really big places to be in, and we found ourselves in there. But as much as I did it for the longest of time because of my love for music, you'd notice that even the club owners themselves didn't feel that women would actually fit the bill and be able to entertain, as it were. And we also found ourselves in situations where sometimes you'd also feel like you're being sexualized. I mean, people can't speak about you without trying to ask, so how does she look like? Is she interesting enough? There was always that thing of trying to sexualize the women in the industry and not look at them for their professional ability. So you'd find that a lot of women at the time could not, even if they loved doing it, they could not continue doing it because of what it was associated with. Sometimes you end up with labels because you're a woman. The men are not going to, get the same sort of description about them, no matter how bad they are in terms of their morals. But the women would always find themselves being labeled because they're in the nightclub. It's a male-dominated space. There's a lot that happens there. So these are just the early days of my experiences with male domination in radio and entertainment. And then we moved to my experiences in radio. You would find that there'd always be questions as to why you've been given a certain primetime shift, why you've been asked to go and MC maybe at a corporate function over somebody else. It was really sad sometimes because it was so frustrating because most of the times you'd then be associated with the inappropriate kind of things like, oh, probably there's somebody was there, or somebody powerful is interested or something. But that wasn't always the case. So you will realize that in the industry, a lot of women would end up buying into the stereotypes because there's a space you get where you really can't be yourself, you can't focus, you can't really show your talent. So some women would end up buying into the stereotypes. And I'm not saying I was totally, clear of it. Sometimes you'd buy into it believing that, okay, I don't think this is for me. I don't think I can do this. I don't think I'm the person that belongs. Mainly because you're a woman, literally because you're a woman. But I thank God because what I always used to think about in terms of when I feel like I'm a little less or I'm not as important, I would always go back and remember just how it all started for me. I didn't start radio from or by accident. I fell in love, should I say? I fell in love with radio when I was very young. I was probably 8 years of age. I used to listen to the radio from a very early age. My father, my mom, they were all really into music. I had cousins that had come out of the war, and there were celebrations nearly every weekend. So probably from the time I was 5, which is in the early 80s, you'll find that there would always be music around us. People would be celebrating independence, families celebrating that their children have come back from the war and they are safe. So there was a lot of music around me. And because of that, I started listening to the radio and I realized, oh, wow, there's people that actually talk behind the music. And so my love for radio started from a very, very early age where I would remember which slot is coming up and who's presented it and what shows are going on, be it Radio 3, Radio 1, if you look at the environment I was growing up in, it would have been difficult probably for me to be able to actually, what's the word, to be able to be groomed to be a radio DJ, besides the fact that everybody around me loved music. But I remained focused and I want to believe God was in it from right from the word go, which is why I believe my doing radio is not just one of those things, but I call it a calling. I believe that God called me to do it. And I'm very proud to have been able to do it for the years that I've done it. And if I tell you now, the passion that I had when I was 22, when I started, is the same passion I still feel about radio. And I literally take my time to talk to some of the young DJs in Zimbabwe to just encourage them. I remember here in the UK, I went into university as a mature student. I did TV and radio production, and I was around a lot of young people. I was way older than them because this is the kind of industry where you find a lot of young people wanting to get into radio, TV, whatever it is. But my thing has always been to encourage. My thing has always been to encourage because I'm very understanding of the pressures that can come with it, especially if you're young, and how sometimes as a woman you're taken advantage of because maybe you're still too young and very impressionable, getting excited over little things. There's room to be taken advantage of. But like I was saying earlier, I believed that God had put it in me. And so I kept going. I remember when I started radio, I had some of the brothers in our youth group coming because I was very active. I was with the Anglican church, but we had a very powerful youth group. So when I started doing radio and being heard on radio on a part-time basis, I remember some two brothers coming to our house that we used to worship with, and they came and they say, "Sister, we need to pray for you," because it's like I had just gone into a world that's not acceptable in terms of my Christian beliefs. So it was a very difficult space. Having to say, this is what I love, and I've loved this for a long time. I mean, I was Bubling B when I was in grade 7. That's when I gave myself that name. So it was a war. And the point I'm trying to bring out here is with the industry, the media, you will always find that men, and I don't want to say this and say it like I'm talking about every man. We've gotten so much support within the industry for men. There's been very good men that have really helped us as women that understood the assignment in terms of sometimes it's difficult for women. So we have been around men. I will mention one. Admaita Derra for me will always be a father. If you know him, he will always be one person I look at as a broadcaster and have so much respect for because we started young and we were so excited, we were so immature, but he would always guide us and say, look, you're doing this and ABC is going to come along with this. You got to be careful when you go out there. He really fathered most of us at the time that joined. So this is the encouragement I give other young people. I remember I had some really young Polish friends around me when I was doing my degree in university. And I'd always tell them that, you know what, it's a lot of things involved. But if you have a passion for something and you stay focused, I don't see how you don't make it. I don't see how it will happen for you. You just got to know why you're in there in the first place. Are you just there? For me, it was the love and also my family. I wanted to do something great for my mom. I felt like my mom uh, was unfairly, she unfairly found herself in a situation where her marriage ended with my dad, and she had to struggle a lot and stuff. So I always had that thing with me that I want to do or work in a job that makes her proud, and I want to make her proud. So I've always used that as a backdrop in times when I feel like I've been discriminated as a woman. People have looked at me in a different way because maybe they're concentrating on how I look than what I can do. So I have conquered because I have been able to go past that and just believe that I can and I will. And so for the many years I've been in radio, that's really what I have done. And I'm glad to say that as much as it takes a long time sometimes for you to uh, be self-aware, to value yourself in the things that you do, it's a journey. It takes a long time. But once you get the hold of it and you get the hang of it and you understand your assignment and the destiny that is bestowed upon you and where you need to go, I don't see how you can fail. And talking about stereotypes and all that, the other day as well, I was looking at remembering some of the stories that had happened, even in here in the UK. There was a serious salary gender gap. I think 3-4 years ago, an investigation found out that the presenters that were presenting certain programs on BBC were women presenters, female presenters, were not getting as much as their male counterparts were getting. And I remember there was one presenter, a popular presenter on BBC, I think her name is Samira. Samira had to take them, to the cleaners, and they ended up paying her in back pay about £700,000 in back pay, because Jeremy Vine, who was doing the exact same job, was getting way more than her, but they were doing the exact same job. And what this opened was a can of worms, because then the BBC ended up, from the story, I think it was in The Guardian, they ended up having to pay another 600 and something people, this time including men, because there was a serious salary gap and women were not being paid for the same job as much as the brothers were being paid. So you will see that this has gone for a very long time. And for me, when I speak about these stereotypes, I really get emotional about it sometimes, because I've experienced a lot of the downsides as much as I believed that this is what I needed to do. You will find that sometimes you be in a relationship as a woman, you're a young woman, and somebody would actually literally tell you, hey, do you know what I'm saying? We have experienced this. These things are real. Because there's already a perception. And I feel sad sometimes for women in the media, and I'm very protective of them, even if I don't have to say much, because I know what they have to go through. I know how sometimes they are not believable, that they can just be normal human beings that are not out there to do whatever, but are just out there to do their job because they're passionate about it. You find little things like, I just don't say it, to be with a woman who's dancing and whatever. These are the things that make us, and it doesn't change the fact that I'm Bridget Gavanga because I'm gonna be dancing, or maybe I've got a slightly wider bum than somebody else. Those things are just a part of me, but they don't make me. I love it when my son says, "Oh, mom, when these children." Unlike us, they talk about everything. You'll be like, Mom, when someone passes away, when they are KO'd, that's what he says. He says, their soul will go and then their body remains. I'm like, who taught you that? And he starts explaining that he had this from school and then he had that. and he watched this and whatever. But the point I'm trying to make here is there is this part of me, which is my physical, and I can never run away from this. But there is a person in me, a stronger, mighty person in me that I believe is the person. I wish we could all see ourselves that way, that to see that person inside of ourselves and not look at this person with I was shamed for so many years because I've got a wide nose. And I remember, I remember in my early 20s, me and my cousin used to get, pegs for hanging and would because people would be talking about our noses more than anything else. So it's what I'm trying to bring out here is these are the things that start to shape us. These are the things that start to make us look at ourselves in a certain way that even if when we find ourselves in certain industries, we're already kind of messed up. Whilst I don't want to entirely blame it on our male counterparts, which would be unfair, I want to say that it also starts with us as women around here. How are we bringing up our children now, considering the experiences that we have had? Most of our brothers are coming from spaces where women are looked at or mirrored in a certain way. Women are looked at as people that can only go so far. So they struggle when we then find ourselves in the same office. I remember someone coming to me, was probably less than a year old. There was politics I didn't know about. And so I'll make a mention. I think Peter Jones had come to the UK. I was quite new. I was still learning. And I'd do what they'd called the graveyard shift, where you work in the night, 12 to 3 or 3 to 6 in the morning. And then I had one Sunday show that Eunice Goto had left. And she actually had to sort of train me for a few weeks before she left and came over here. So I was asked just to cover. I was just a cover presenter. I wasn't supposed to be doing that shift. And it was a breakfast show. So when I finished it, I think it used to finish at 8 o'clock at the time. That's when the shift ended. The person that was taking over for me, I'm not going to say names because these are really popular people, came up to me and said, "How did you agree to do this shift?" And I was like, "I didn't agree. I was asked to do it." And he said to me, "But you realize your voice is not for the morning." I was young and still learning. And this was somebody I looked up to. I was so heartbroken and thinking, oh my gosh, tomorrow I'm going to need to come back here again to do the same thing. And the same person is going to take over from me. How am I going to face them? I went home. The only person I'd really shared such stuff with was my mom. And my mom was like, "But this is what you love. Keep going. This is what you love." When people talk to you like that, keep away from them. Don't say anything disrespectful. I've never been that kind of a person, but I'm just trying to tell you and show you the stereotypes that come, the stigmas that develop within a certain framework of work. How you sometimes stop believing in yourself. How sometimes you self-doubt because you have. It's like literally all the time you find somebody who thinks because you're a woman, you don't belong here. You shouldn't be in this space. Before I left to come to the UK, I got appointed. I didn't apply. I was just doing my thing. I was actually making quite a bit of money at the time. I was excited about what I was doing. And I was doing radio part-time. I'd moved from full-time and I was doing part-time. Was happy in the space that I was wow. I was enjoying myself, making the money out of something that I love. Then I just get appointed. I'm just walking to do a commercial program in one random afternoon, and there's a call on my phone, and it says, "You've now been appointed as the station manager." I'm like, no way. Do I have to say anything, sir? Your letter will come in tomorrow. I don't think you have to say anything. All I can say is congratulations. This is just how I got appointed. And the next thing was to see on the notice board that I was one of the managers that had been appointed. I was just a basic producer presenter. Yes, I put in so many years to it. But I had friends, I'd made so many friends within. It didn't make sense for a lot of people. But it also shows you what God does in our lives. Sometimes we give up, but God says, there's a space I want to take you. So just keep going. And for me, I was in a good space. I didn't need to be given a position. I was happy where I was, but God wanted something better for me. So I found myself in this space. The 2 years were the most horrible times of my radio broadcasting. I went through, I literally went to hell and back, and then tomorrow I'll come back and go to hell and come back. I had so many battles within. There were some people that were just not willing to listen to me because it's me. And because I'm a woman. And I remember at some point listening to the stories, people will still come around and tell you what's been said. And I was hearing these stories about, oh, if it's not Mr. So-and-so, then I'm sure it's Mr. So-and-so. These are people that I had so much respect for that if I saw them in the corridors, I'll be running the other way. If I was to park in the same parking lot as them, I'd wish I'd move my car and move it elsewhere because I didn't want them to ever think I look at them in any different way because I know how people are. And this is why I'm saying you get conditioned. The stigmas and the stereotypes will condition you to start behaving a certain way. You find yourself starting to hate how you look. You find yourself not being so pleasant sometimes because when you go into a space, you're always thinking maybe people are looking at me and thinking, okay, do you understand? You understand where I'm coming from? Sometimes you go into those spaces, but as I'm gonna stop now, all I want to say to all of us is that I have never been the person to give up. I just wasn't brought up like that. I've always believed that we keep pushing. Sometimes life can be so stagnant, like there's nothing going on, but we just never give up. We keep looking and we keep searching. And my thing is I get better every day. Every day for me is an opportunity. If I've been unkind to someone, then tomorrow is my chance, if I'm alive, to be kind to that person. If I feel I've said the wrong words and I know in my heart that that was wrong, I have tomorrow. As long as I breathe, I have tomorrow to do better. So even in my industry, if I don't do well today, if I feel that people have not treated me well, I still have a chance, as long as I'm breathing, to do better tomorrow. So that's just where I stand. This is what I share with all of you in this panel, that this is how I live my life. This is how life has been for me. But I have never been a person to give up. No matter how much low I get, I still believe. I remember when I got married for a few years, and I was in this situation, and I remember telling my ex that, you know what, the person that I am, the person that I believe that I am, even if I go down today, even if you throw me in a dungeon where I don't even know, it's so dark, I can't even tell where to go, I always come out. I always come out. And sometimes I look back and I'm like, where did I get that energy to tell someone such strong words that if you think this is the end of me, this is not the end of me. I will come up again. So that is my attitude in life. Even if this is for the women that are in the industry as well, maybe they'll get to watch this at some point. We just never give up for the sake of another human being. Agite, we keep going. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Auntie Mimiey and everyone else.
Oh, wow. Give it up for the bubbling bee. Come on, guys. Show us by a shout if you can, and let's just give it up for the bubbling bee. That was amazing. Thank you so much for such a powerful session. I'd love to see the comment section buzzing. What is that one key takeaway for you? from this amazing talk presentation? For me, it's resilience. So just type it in the comment section. What is your takeaway for this topic, breaking free in a male-dominated industry? Sis, that was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your life with us. You were very vulnerable with us too, as well. And I could find myself, because at some point I was like, you know what, Priscilla, your nose is a little bit, on the wide side. What can you do about it? And to just know that, we can all relate with your story and how you've managed to break free. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. If there are any questions, do kindly throw them in the chat. We can either address them now or address it later because of our time. I'll quickly read. Pastor Sarah says, a dodged refusal to give up. Thank you, Bubling B. Kathleen says, never give up. That was the takeaway for them. And for me, it was resilience in the face of adversity. So that was powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Moving on, we are moving to our next guest